All right, thanks for the introduction, Alex. I'm Mariah. I'm an investigative trainee here at CI. And as Alex stated, I'm going to be talking about verifications today. So we do three main types of verifications at Commercial Investigations. We do education verifications, employment verifications, and reference checks. And these are all about getting the right applicant for the right job. Most people want to look good in an interview, so naturally they tend to stretch the truth even just a little bit. Even if it's harmless, it's definitely still the right decision to verify your applicant's resume. At Commercial Investigations, we do about 6,000 education verifications a year, and just about 10% of those are marked with adverse information. Education is usually the most misrepresentative piece of information on an applicant's resume. An example of adverse information would be the graduation date being more than a year off what the school's records are. So to dive deeper into education verifications, with these, we typically look at the highest level of education as well as a high school diploma verification. These verifications look at degree type, major, sometimes GPA. Oh, sorry, I got muted for some reason. All right, so as I was saying, we look at the degree type, the major, sometimes the GPA, enrollment dates, graduation date, and reason for leaving. If they're able to give us all that information, we'll take it. We like to also get the verifier's information as well if we call them directly. And we also do have a spot on our forms that we send out to these facilities so they can provide us with their name and position before sending it back to us as well. So why should you run education verifications? This ensures that the applicant is fully qualified for the position that they are applying for. It avoids liabilities such as hiring an unqualified applicant and putting the employer or other employees at risk of injury. This helps us to identify fake degrees and diplomas because it is unfortunately very easy to fake diplomas these days. Seriously, just try it for yourself. You can go online and just look up a diploma, print it out, and obtain a job that way. So unfortunately, that is definitely something we look for and deal with on a weekly basis. And lastly, just to verify industry-specific credentials, healthcare facilities, education centers, legal centers, et cetera, they all have specific requirements needed to perform the work. And we are just looking to help you guys make sure that your applicants do have the credentials that they share with you that they have. So next, we have employment verifications. And an employment verification includes the applicant's start and end date, sometimes their salary, their position, their eligibility for rehire, and their reason for leaving the company. And again, they might not be able to provide us all this information, but we do ask for all this information and we mark down everything that they are able to give us. Similar to education verifications, we also get the verifier's information as well. And if anything ever goes wrong or we ever have to go back to it, we always know directly who we can ask for when reaching back out to the employment and say, you gave us this information, we noticed something was wrong, would you mind rechecking it for us? And why you should run employment verifications. One reason is to see how well the applicant will fit into the culture of your work environment. It can uncover different perspectives on why applicants leave maybe past jobs, and that can help you determine if they might have a similar situation with you or if you think they might be a better fit for your position. Employment verifications also validate applicant skills. They confirm the applicant is able to do everything they say they are responsible for doing or were responsible doing at a past job. And it helps define strengths and weaknesses that the applicant maybe didn't mention originally. And of course, employment verifications also validate the title and position and helps you to determine whether or not they were in a position, comparable or that will prepare them for the position that they are applying for with you. We follow many practices when running employment verifications, and one main one is to use caution when verifying the applicant's current employer. Contacting a current employer without direct consent will very likely compromise the applicant's relationship with that employer, and this could kind of turn them off to you in the process. So we don't ever want to do anything that would make the applicants uncomfortable, and we just want to make sure that they are comfortable before we do reach out to a current employment. Another practice we follow is to identify the employer's phone number independently. A lot of times an applicant will provide us with a phone number to reach out to, but we do like to do that additional research on our own because unfortunately it is very easy to maybe just give us the phone number to your friend and be like, hey, can you help me out here? And tell these people that I worked here for X amount of time or an X amount of positions. And so we just like to reach out to them directly and, get the information directly from somebody within the company who is currently there if possible. It sounds ridiculous, but these are things that we unfortunately deal with day to day. Another practice we follow is to be consistent in the total years we search back for with employment history. Most employers, usually search for either 7 or 10 years in the past. Either is acceptable. We just recommend that you make it uniform for all your applicants and, be mindful of younger applicants. Maybe they haven't worked all those years or haven't had as many jobs. And then, of course, we show our due diligence. Employment verifications can be not the most fun sometimes. Sometimes we have to reach out to many, many people to find the information that we need, but we just want to ensure that we have the correct applicant and that we're getting the correct information before sending it over to you guys. And lastly, we have reference verifications. So reference verifications are usually customized to an extent. We have 2 types of references, being professional and personal. And within professional, we also have direct report professionals where we will try to obtain a manager, supervisor, teacher, somebody that the applicant has had to directly report to in the past and get some feedback from them as well. Typically, we see 2 professional references and 1 personal reference being most wanted to be obtained, but we do see all sorts of different combinations. And why should you run reference verifications? Well, professional references can comment on applicants' ability, experience, and background within the field that you are in, or even if it's not the field that you're in, it's still just a professional setting and professional environment, and that's definitely good to get a feel for. We also can find out strengths and weaknesses of an applicant that they maybe not mentioned on their own, didn't mention in the interview, didn't mention in conversation. And you can really get a feel for the type of relationship an applicant has had in their work environment. Personal references, we've noticed with personal references, it definitely helps to find more character traits and habits outside of the workplace. And it helps us determine if an applicant acts the same around their friends, if they do around their coworker, if they show the same amount of respect, et cetera. We need to be very specific with applicants about what qualifies as a professional reference, what qualifies as a personal reference, because a lot of times we see people providing maybe their parents or, cousins, aunts, uncles, sister, brother, and we have to reach out to them and let them know that unfortunately that bias will not count as a reference, and they just end up having to provide us an additional one anyways. So we try to be very specific about what we're asking for when we initially ask for that information. And especially with professional references, we definitely prefer direct phone contact to just really get a feel for how, for the relationship and how this person may feel about the applicant. Those are our 3 major verifications here at Commercial Investigations, and all of those can be customized. For example, reference questions can be changed. We can add a question that may be very important to you and make sure that we're asking the references that question as well, even if it's not on our standard form. You can customize the criteria for conducting anything, such as, with employment history, how many years we look back, how many references you want, how many employers you want us to reach out to, anything like that. And lastly, our adverse information guidelines. Something of our standard policy to mark as adverse may not be very important to you, and it may be something that you might want us to not mark as adverse just so that doesn't show up as adverse, and that is something we can customize as well.